Hi, everyone, and welcome back. I'm here today with two special guest speakers, and both of them are Dedman alumni, and they were both in my class, and I know them really well. Jackson and Lina, I'm so excited to have you here today. Thanks for being here. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Go ahead.
Well, thank you for having us. I am Jackson Fulton. I graduated Dedman in May of this year, and I'm currently the assistant executive housekeeper at Hotel Indigo in College Town.
Hey everyone, I'm Lina. I'm the assistant general manager here at Hotel Indigo, and I graduated Dedman, it's been a minute, December 2018.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Why don't you tell us about your career path since you started at Dedman and how you got to where you are today?
Definitely. So was in Dedman from the beginning when it once was with the business school, and went to the internship fair, very important. And I went in thinking, I'm just going to practice my interviewing. I had already had a job here in Tallahassee. I'd been with the company for 2 years. It was not anything hotel related, restaurant related, but I was like, let me just practice interviewing. I didn't really interview a lot before. Went into an interview, came back, went to Lydia's office and was like, I love this company. Should I wait for them? Should I go? Waited 2 months, still hadn't heard back, and the internships almost started in May. And Lydia told me, just wait for them. The worst that happens is that you don't hear back from them and I'll find you another job. So I had my first hotel experience during a summer internship as a front desk agent. From there, those 3 months flew back and I came back to Tallahassee thinking, I'm glad I'm studying what I'm studying because hotels is the only thing I want to do. Came back, applied to 11 hotel jobs here in Tallahassee, only heard back from 2. So it's rough. And then I had my footing with 4 Points here in Tallahassee, and that's where my career took off. I went from a front desk agent to their manager and training program, to a front desk supervisor, to getting a call one day being like, hey, do you mind being our interim director of housekeeping? And from there, the opportunities just kept going and going.
Nice. So when I started in Dedman, same as Lena, I started that right when I came in as a freshman. I was working my sophomore year at a country club here in town. And after a few months of being there, I started realizing I don't think country clubs are exactly what I want to be doing. I did it in high school and I just didn't really feel like I could go in a route that I wanted to go as far as what I wanted to learn. So I was always interested in hotels. So I got an email from Alicia that 4 Points was looking for front desk agents. So applied and I got it. And so I was working there for a few months and I was checking in a couple people that were here for the internship expo. And they're like, oh, you should definitely come and see us tomorrow. Like, stop by our booth. I'm like, okay. So I went, interviewed with them, and it was with the Breakers in Palm Beach. And I did my summer internship as a housekeeping coordinator. I was part of their lead intern program, and absolutely amazing experience, such amazing exposure into luxury resorts and seeing all of the background and logistics behind housekeeping in this huge operation. And absolutely loved it. And then went back to 4 Points, and I was working as like kind of a front desk supervisor as well as a housekeeping supervisor. It was called their rooms controller while I was there. The last few months I was there, I was tag teaming being the director of housekeeping. And then once I realized I'm gonna be staying in Tallahassee for another year, just once, COVID and all that fun started happening, I realized, all right, we're gonna stay here. And moved here to Hotel Indigo, now assistant executive housekeeper, and it's great.
Wonderful. Thank you. Well, you obviously both really love the hospitality industry and hotels. So let's talk about why that is. What do you love about it? What are your favorite aspects of the job? And then what do you not love about it, or what are your challenges?
I wasn't really sure this is what I wanted to do. I one day went to go visit my cousin who's the AGM over at Margaritaville, and she gave me like the real true back of house tour of it all. And I was like, wow, like, so all you do is get to talk to your employees and talk to guests all day. Like, I love talking. So that's where it really came out of, was the idea of being able to like be on my feet all day. I couldn't imagine sitting behind a desk in a cubicle, talking every 5 minutes to no one but myself. So I really enjoy helping guests and their experience of traveling, because you spend so much time and planning and money when you're doing this. So it's like, why not make someone's day? Like, this is what they're here for. And sometimes it is just business travel, but like making their business travel easier. So definitely I enjoy the guest interaction part of it all. Me and Jackson will both say we love the craziness of being in all sorts of departments, all hands on. That's been really fun. I guess my only challenge will be sometimes I don't know when to leave. Is right now my only thing. I don't really have a down on the industry. I mean, we never expected to be here during COVID, so we always thought we'd always have a job forever and everywhere. But I guess my personal challenge is just knowing when to leave work and being like, okay, everything is all settled. It's okay.
Yeah. I feel my interest in hotels started when I was pretty young. My dad traveled a lot for business, and we were able to go with him as a family sometimes. And I used to go into these hotels where they'd have these massive events. They were big properties. And as a young age going into these, I'm like, wow, how does this work? Like, how would, if I was involved in this operation in any way, shape, or form, like this is just so much. Like, how does this happen? Like, how do these massive events happen? How does like all of these rooms work? How does this front desk work? I always thought it was cool. And I started like applying for colleges, and I realized, oh, hospitality is like actually a thing you can do. And once I started getting into the industry, a lot like Lina, I realized a lot of this is how you're interacting with people and how you can change their days. And just along like what you said with, you know, it might just be business travel. They might be here for something that's amazing, like a fun event, or they might be here for more of a depressing reason. But the fact that I have the ability to be able to make someone stay and make their day better all the time is great. And I also just love how unpredictable things are. Like Lina said, when we both were working as managers on duty at 4 Points, and here, it's so unpredictable. You never know what you're going to walk into. And I love that. I never wanted a job that was going to be monotonous, just, you know, sitting behind a desk, things that are predictable, hours that are predictable. I don't want that. I want something that's constantly changing. I want to be able to learn something new every day. And I feel like this industry, especially with hotels, is the best place to be when you're longing for something like that. The downside is just the nature of the hospitality industry, that we always work holidays, we always work weekends, but I've always known that, and that's fine with me, because a lot of the times when you're working these fun events, like working football games, I didn't go to as many as I wanted to when I was a student at FSU, but I was still able to work at a hotel where I'm surrounded by a bunch of fans that are tailgating, and they're all, you know, coming up to me and asking me all these questions about the games, and talking about how it was and how fun it was, or how depressing it was when we lost a lot. But I always thought that was cool. So even though there is that downside, I can still have somewhat of an experience with it, so it still works.
Well, thank you. Both of you, your passion obviously shines through. And I've known you since the very beginning, since you were freshmen at Dedman, and you've both always had that passion. So I know the answer to this next question, because the question is, how did you advance your career? And a lot of that took place in my office with discussions about choices that you were making, or which company should I interview with, which job should I take? And I know that I've had discussions with both of you about that. So let's talk a little bit about that. You both mentioned your first internship, and then here you are today. So let's talk about, how did you make that advancement happen?
I think both Jackson and I have very similar ideas, not ideas, but processes of how we went through it. But it's really just understanding, like, you may be called the front desk agent or server, but it's really just taking advantage of different responsibilities that you can take on in those roles. And that's what really took off for me here in Tallahassee. When I came back from my first internship, it was a luxury hotel. So we had 500 plus rooms. So all I really knew was front desk. So when I came here to a limited service hotel, it was like, oh, you need to talk to housekeeping, you need to talk to this department. So it was a lot smaller. So it's like, how can I utilize my position to organize or advance or make this more of a working hotel while I'm here? I will say I got bored of being a front desk agent. So I was like, oh, give me more, give me more, give me more. So it's just understanding, like, when you're in your role, you may not be getting paid to do certain things, but if you take on those responsibilities, your leadership team will notice that and advance you. So that's all it took for me, was asking for more things to do while I was the front desk agent. And then from there, having the opportunity to apply for the manager and training program, and then going through that 8 weeks with them, and them seeing like, oh, she can handle all these responsibilities. She's good with guests. So just like remembering, like, in order to get where you want to be in your goals, just putting yourself out there, taking on the responsibilities, even when it's not your job. People will notice, especially in this industry. Your leadership team will notice that you are taking the extra like foot in the right direction to get where you want to get to. So that's how it was for me to be able to advance. And it was just, taking everything no matter what.
And I feel very similar with that. I feel like I got to where I am now by just never shying away from an opportunity that was presented to me. A lot like Lina said, we'd be working as front desk agents, but my director or GM would walk up to me and say, hey, can you actually help me with housekeeping inventory? Like, just, can you put these numbers in a spreadsheet for me? I'm really busy. I'm like, sure, I'll do that. And then as I'm doing it, I ask questions, I get involved in it, and I show interest. And just by simply showing interest, that is going to go so far for you. It's not, okay, Jackson's completed this task, he did it, cool. It's Jackson completed this task, he showed a passion for it, he showed that he cared about it, and he wants to learn more about it. Mm-hmm. And anytime you have any opportunity to be able to be shown new areas and new opportunities, always take it. Because that's really what was able to get me and Lina to where we are, mm-hmm. was just knowing, this isn't my job, but it's going to help me. And even if management doesn't look at it and say, oh, cool, he did that task, manager. That's not how it's going to work, but I'm still going to be able to get the exposure. And, even if it's not going to right then and there put me in a higher position, I'm still going to be able to learn more about it. And I'm still going to be able to have a leg up on the people that I'm working around, because now I have more knowledge. So get as much experience as you can, learn as much as you can. And then even if it's a little bit out of your comfort zone, because a lot of the things that I've done, at least, have been very out of my comfort zone. So don't shy away from opportunity, and just always be willing to learn more.
That's really good advice. Thank you. And I definitely can say for both of you, those were the kind of students you were too. Always asking questions, getting to know people, participating in activities at school. And that same kind of curiosity and willingness to learn has really helped you in your career path. Mm-hmm. All right, let's switch gears for a minute and talk about mentors. Do you have mentors? How have they helped you? Do you mentor other people?
Definitely, I would say my mentor is my GM. He was my GM at 4 Points. He was the one who trusted me in this opportunity of being his AGM here. And finding him was, I guess, we're both working for him. And it was just like the leadership skills that he had and he possessed is what I saw myself wanting in the future. So it was definitely just like seeing how he was a leader to us, how his processes were, how organized he was in hotels. His background is all food and beverage. So being like, oh my God, I don't know anything about food and beverage. How did you go from assistant director of food and beverage to a GM of the hotel? So he's helped a lot in guiding me, teaching me everything. Some things I'm still learning on, like revenue calls and stuff like that. I was never good at that class, and here I am learning and sitting on calls. So he was phenomenal. He's my mentor. I have my cousin who's also a mentor. She has a long career in the hotel industry. So going back to her and asking her processes, and like, hey, when you were an AGM, how'd you do this and organize this? And then I will let Jackson speak on his mentor before I say anything else.
I'm not just saying it because you two are next to me, but you two are honestly my mentors. Lina, the minute I remember her training, because she trained me as a front desk agent, the second I met her, I could have sworn she was a robot or she was just fake, because the energy that Lina possesses and her genuine care for guests, and also just your passion and your drive, I wanted that. And the second I met her, I'm like, I need to be around this girl, because she brings out a insane work ethic in me that I know I have, but I need someone to help me develop it more. So Lina's the kind of person I know I can always go to when I'm tired and I don't want to keep doing something. I'll sit in her office, I'm like, Lina, this is a horrible day. I don't want to do this anymore. And I'll sit there and I'll vent with her for 5 minutes. And then she gives me a little pep talk and I keep going. or she's the kind of person that will jump in and help me. She always will run up there and inspect rooms with me, help me make beds if we're really slow. So having that kind of energy around me, and also seeing a leader that is so willing to jump in and assist, is great. And it's a quality that I really hope to have when I eventually get into higher management. And then you, Dr. Hanks, you're just a pro. You know everything. You're like being able to go into your office hours and literally sit and say, okay, I have an opportunity with this place, this place, this place. These are my pros and cons for both. What do you think? What should I do? So having somebody like that in my life is a huge blessing going through school. And then even now, after I graduated, when COVID started going on, I remember I called you for an hour when I was sitting on vacation with my dad. And then post-grad, here I was trying to figure out what I do in Tallahassee. I texted you and I'm like, hey, I know I graduated, but I need your help. So having a strong person in the industry that knows a lot of the background and knows where the trends are and where things are going to be going eventually, because you know what our past has been, was a huge help. So thank you.
Yeah. So that's why I let Jackson go ahead and finish that. I would definitely say I mentor both him and one of our other front desk supervisors. I have two now, so I definitely feel like I've taken on the mentor role for both of them. I enjoy doing it. Again, how Jackson said, we're only really in reality about a year and a half in age difference, but it's really just his experience that he had at his internship and my internship, like bringing both of our knowledges from both of those together and being able to work together really helps. Like the best way to learn and grow through this industry is with one another. We're the ones who know the reality of the dirty stuff that goes on behind it. And like, we can definitely vent and talk about those things with the understanding that's like, oh, well, if you're unhappy, like just quit. And it's like, no, it's not that I'm unhappy. I just had a really rough day. So I think it's definitely something we both enjoy doing, is teaching others everything we have gone through. And it's every experience is definitely going to be different. So it's not us telling you like, this is how to handle it, but it's like, hey, like I've never had a fire alarm go off on me. And when it was a steamer. Well, Jackson had a fire alarm go off on him and it was an oil kitchen, like a kitchen fire. So definitely two different experiences, but we could both walk you through of like, oh, this is how we handled it, but it may be a totally different venue for you.
Well, that's great. Thank you. First of all, thank you for the kind words, Jackson. And I have to tell you that of all the different aspects of my job as a professor, my very favorite one is mentoring students and watching you. You know, I'm so happy that we're reconnecting to do this, because I knew you from your very first time that you stepped foot into Dedman. And now here we are several years later, and Jackson called me up and said, okay, I have career questions. What should I do? And I hope that that goes on forever. I hope that 20 years from now, we're still talking about your career and talking about the good things that are happening to you. So thanks. And it's really nice to see you guys mentoring each other too. That's so much the essence of what Dedman is about. And I just love seeing that personified with you guys. So, all right. So I have a question about work-life balance. And it's interesting because most of the other people that I'm interviewing, most of our other guest speakers, are much older than the two of you. They have families and children and houses and dogs and those kind of considerations. So I'm really interested to hear about you guys. How do you balance your work and your life outside of there?
I will say, Jackson could correct me when he speaks, but I think we're still learning how to do that. Yep. Like you said, we don't have kids to run home to. I do have a dog, but like I do have a significant other at home with this dog. So I think we're both learning like where to leave and where to like when to come in, because once you start working, you just, especially in hotels, it never really closes. I think we both will say like making sure, and everyone in the leadership team will always understand this, to take a vacation, schedule it, and everyone will respect your time on that vacation, but just giving yourself off like 3 days, even if it's like, oh, I'm not going away, but like, hey, I'm going to request 3 days off this month, and not be your you time, whether you drive 45 minutes out or you're home in bed the whole time. But definitely when I'm not scheduling my vacation times and stuff like that, it's really both of us hitting each other like, hey, it's time for you to leave. Weren't you supposed to leave an hour ago? Hey, you need to leave. But I think as we grow, we're in a crazy situation with COVID and opening a new hotel that this was a little bit different. I think with 4 points, we learned our schedules enough and our routine to be able to like leave and still have a social life. But most of our social time is with each other after work anyways. And we're like, oh, it's time for us to take a break. Let's just walk down the street to a restaurant, get a couple drinks and things like that.
It definitely is difficult balancing everything. And like I said, I just graduated. So this is my first time not having to balance work, school, and trying to get a social life, because I was working full time my junior and senior year. But making sure that you're at least setting time for yourself and when you're getting outside of work. Luckily, now that I'm in housekeeping, my hours are more in the morning and I'm out by about 4 or 5 o'clock. So I make sure when I get home, okay, let me try to exercise. Let me try to talk to my parents, talk to my friends that I don't work with. Like I have other friends than Lina, not many, but so making sure that I'm keeping my relationships there, and that when I'm off of work, because I do work a lot of hours. I definitely work more than 40 a week. But when I'm not here, that I'm not just doing nothing. I'm not just going home and not doing anything. I make sure that I still have a life. I'm still doing things that are benefiting myself, my health, and mentally and physically, and then keeping my relationship strong with people around me. And like Lina said, try to make some kind of vacation for yourself. We all need it. We all deserve it. And especially with all this craziness going on in the world, we all need some kind of a break. So, and everyone, in my experience at the 3 properties that I've worked at, everyone will understand when you look at them and say, I'm exhausted. Let me try to work out a few days where I can have this off and just have some relaxation. So trying to just focus on yourself, give yourself a break, and keep your relationships there.
That's great advice. Thank you. All right, you both mentioned earlier how crazy everything is and that you like it that way, and that you never know what's going to happen in the day. So I realize that this question is a little crazy to ask you, what does your typical day look like? But try to give us a 1-minute overview of what your day really does look like. You get to work, and then what happens?
So right now, as AGM of this current property, my hours fluctuate from either coming in from like a 12 or to a 3. So I'm normally the night MOD, and that just is coming in, checking on my front desk staff, checking in with Jackson, our director of housekeeping, and how rooms are looking at, because check-in is at 3 for us. So making sure everything's set up for my guests, routing, billing, their preferences, and all that stuff. So first and foremost for me is make sure all the guests are set up. Front desk is good. Do I have good coverage? Are we going to have 20 to 30 check-ins, or are we going to have 4 check-ins? And seeing how that goes. And then I'll put on my accounting and HR hat and just catch up on my night audit packets that I have to check through, making sure our numbers all match, making sure restaurant income and revenue is coming in correctly. And then sprinkle in some guest issues, having to help, some refunds, things like that. And then just like helping with the restaurant, because you wear that hat too. Again, my background is not in F&B, but being a restaurant manager from them when they have guest issues and things like that. So it's definitely, wearing 3 hats has been fun. It's still a learning process for me. But it's just making sure guests are taken care of first and foremost for me, and then worrying about everything else. We have time. Yes, end of month will come, and just when you start a new month, the end of it will come. But for me, it's definitely taking care of the guests, reading through emails, following up, giving up points for them, and making sure their amenity points are taken care of, because you don't want to mess with that, guys. So making sure they're taken care of first before all my other duties need to be done.
So for mine, I start at around 8 o'clock. So the first thing I do when I come in is I sit down and I look at our PMS and just see, okay, what do I have departing today? What do I have arriving today? What does my room inventory look like? So right now we're in a pretty slow period. So when I go to assign the room attendants their rooms and assignment for the mornings, I'll look through, what do I have arriving? What do I already have in my inventory that is ready for a guest right now? And I balance out, okay, this is what I need to have clean today. This is what I don't. So I get that all set. I make sure that I'm giving them the appropriate amount of room so I won't kill them throughout the day, and that whatever's gonna be done is gonna be productive. Catch up on emails when I'm in there, and then about 9 o'clock, all the room attendants will come in. We hold a little stand up for them to say, hey, this is what's going on for the day. Any guest feedback that we've gotten. One great thing about working with IHG is there's a ton of surveys that come through. So our guests are very transparent. We've gotten a lot of constructive criticism already, but a lot of positive things. So have a little stand up with that. They go up and start working. And for the first 2 hours that they're working, I have just some side work that I'll work on. Right now, we're really still trying to get organized because we opened, had about a week of quiet, and then got slammed with move-in, had a week with quiet, got hit with this football game. So still trying to organize ourselves, get everything all set up. And then just some other like little side work. If we have any ordering that needs to be done, doing our department schedule, going through our payroll and making sure that's all set for HR Lina, and which I need to improve on. But and then about 12 o'clock is when I really start getting into rooms like pretty hard. So I'll do a first round of inspecting rooms. So making sure that everything is in the room, it's there appropriately, the room has been appropriately cleaned, checking on the room attendants, seeing if any of them need some assistance. Almost every day I'll pick the room attendant that's moving the slowest, and I'll grab her and say, hey, I'm gonna do 3 of your rooms. I'll make the beds in, I'll strip it all for you. So when you go in there, just clean it. So just make their day a little bit easier and keep inspecting their rooms, making sure that they have everything that they need on them. 4 or 5 o'clock rolls around, that's when they all start leaving, hop back onto the computer, make sure that all the rooms that were cleaned for that day are in the system, showing appropriately. Also, any kind of maintenance issues that we had pop up through the day are logged in. If needed, those rooms are pulled out of inventory or put into a status so front desk won't put somebody into them. And then also checking with the front desk, making sure they have what they need. Any pre-arrival guest requests, like any extra amenities in rooms, extra towels, rollaway beds, things like that, that has been taken care of. It's logged and front desk knows that it's been done. And then making sure everything looks all nice and clean. So when we come in the next day, we can do it all over again.
Perfect. Thank you. Well, to wrap up, what kind of final advice would you have for our students?
I think the biggest advice I could give to your students is definitely you want to know what you're getting into. Understand, and we are taught this. We are taught that it's a 24/7 business. Yes, even on restaurant side, you have a closing time, but you're mainly there 2 hours extra after closing to close everything, clean everything down. So this industry can be phenomenally amazing if you love what you do. Take every opportunity given to you. You may have 1 week that you are just slamming 60, 70 hours, and the next week you'll go back to your 40 hours. It happens, and it's okay. Like, as long as you love what you do, you enjoy the guests, like, you'll never work a day in your life, honestly. And I think that's how we both felt. Making sure, like how Jackson said earlier, talking to your friends who may not be in the industry, because sometimes I get lost in my bubble of like, oh my God, Jackson knows what I'm going through, I need to just talk to Jackson and stuff like that. So making sure you remind yourself to take care of yourself and things like that. But also remembering to, when you're looking for your future company that you want to work for, or like it might not be your dream company, but making sure their leadership team and their culture matches what you want. I think we both experienced that in different ways coming into this new hotel and building that culture for our employees, is that remembering what we didn't like about certain leadership teams. You're not going to love everyone you work with, but as you move on from different positions, different hotels, different restaurants, remembering to like going through interviews and asking the people who are interviewing you about their style of leadership, how they go through different informations. Like in an interview, it is about interviewing you, but make it also about them, because it's also important for you to be able to align your values with that company. And if they don't match, I promise you, you won't be happy.
Perfect.
I feel like my biggest thing, I haven't been in this industry too long and I haven't been in management too long, but the biggest thing when you're a student in Dedman and when you walk out, this is still an industry where you need to be a pro at the line level before you can get to management. You can't expect, especially for me in housekeeping, you can't expect to pop right into management and have no idea how to clean a room, no idea how to make a bed. You need to understand the labor that you're managing or the work that you're managing, you need to know how to do that too. So a lot of times when you're walking right out of school, you can't expect that you deserve to be right in management. You need to make sure that you're staying humble, that you're working, like you start at the bottom, like you really do. Like you start as a front desk agent, you start as a server, because then when you start going up to management, it'll happen fast. But when you're going up that ladder, you know what is expected of the people that are going to be working for you because you've done it, not because somebody is telling you what they need to do. And also take advantage of the resources that we have. The Alumni Network of Dedman is absolutely amazing. We have great professors, not just Dr. Hanks. So many of them are great. Dr. Hanks, you're the best, but there are so many great ones. Take advantage of those resources. Go to these networking events. You know, I went to a lot of them where I had no interest in working for this company, but you know, I'm gonna go, like Lina said, I'm gonna practice my interviewing skills, I'm gonna practice my networking skills. Just get your head out there, keep your mind open, because you never know what you're gonna walk into. I never saw myself in housekeeping until I started going into it and realized I liked it. So keep an open mind, take opportunities to come to you, stay humble, and work hard.
That is great advice, both of you. Thank you so much for sharing. And thank you for being here with us today. I'm just so grateful. It's great to connect with you guys again. And I love that you're able to give advice back to the students because you were just sitting in their chairs a few years ago. So thank you so much for your time.
No,
Thank you.
Have a great day.
You too.